one of my great friends and a guy who has an amazing story. I'm really excited to bring this to you. A couple housekeeping items off the top. I've got my assistant Janelle running the chat. So drop your questions for Josh in the chat box and we will get those answered. And definitely interact with us. As I always say, I like this to be interactive. So I want you guys to be able to participate in the discussion and get as many nuggets out of Josh as you can. This guy's a wealth of information around health and performance optimization. Like I said, Josh has an amazing story. Former BMX athlete, brain tumor survivor. He's now a keynote speaker and a health and performance optimization coach and strategist. Josh, welcome to the show, man.
Jimmy, my bro, man, I appreciate you having me. It's an honor and a pleasure.
Yeah, man, it's great to get you on. I've told a lot of my viewers and really anybody I've talked to over the last 6, 7 months how much you helped me in my journey. I was spending years after I retired from football trying to optimize my health and performance. I wanted to, be in tip-top shape. The last couple of years I've had a goal to get back to my NFL playing weight and in that kind of condition, and I just wasn't able to do it on my own. And Josh and I met, I want to say in January, and we ended up rooming together for 2 or 3 events in a row that we were doing with Kaizen and some other events that we were out on the road at. And just through, kind of watching your lifestyle, your diet, the way you kind of go about optimizing your health, it motivated me and inspired me. And I was like, damn it, I haven't been able to reach these goals that I've set on my own. I need to bring in a true expert and somebody that can help me. And that's one of the things that you did for me. And so, I want to thank you for that, obviously, because that's been a real change in my life. And we'll get to some of that later. But I really want you to kind of start off and just tell your story, dude, because you have one of those stories. I know you got a book coming out, and it's one of those stories where people will say, man, you should write a book, and you're doing that. And I want you to tell your story here because I think it's really powerful how you got from, a guy who left high school and moved away from home at 17 to pursue a dream to where you are now.
Yeah, man, first, thank you for all that you do. And I'm super grateful that we met because so many things that you share with me just helped me in so many profound ways that have got me to where I am today in this moment. So I appreciate the connection and just being around like-minded people and just picking up on different traits. Like you see things, you observe things, and you model. And at the end of the day, you know that from your background in sports. Like it's not like there's no such thing as self-made. Like someone gave you an opportunity, someone coached you, or you modeled. Like there's always a bigger piece than just yourself. So yeah, the love's reciprocated for sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I guess, me, I've been thinking about this like the last few weeks in depth of like someone's like, who are you? That question, like, who are you? And I argue none of us know who we really are. And when we start really diving into who we are and our background, it makes sense of the steps that have occurred and the experiences that we've gone through. So for me, like on a surface level, like you nailed it. I mean, I grew up, I'd say emotionally and physically abused, but I just had this insecurity that led me down this path of finding BMX. And then that took over my life. It led me to dropping out of high school and then, allowed me to overcome brain tumor diagnosis and injuries and apply all these things I was unconsciously learning to manifest my dreams to my reality. I dropped out of high school, became a professional athlete, toured the world, was paid to tour the world doing what I loved most, which was riding my bike and doing tricks. I never knew it was going to save my life, literally and figuratively, but it also gave me my purpose. And it's been able to help me, I think, develop a voice in my life and then share that with other people because, you get asked this as well. Like how do I find my purpose or how do I, find success? And like, I find from my experience, it was uncovered in the process. And I know you are a very big proponent of, falling in love with the journey, the process. For me, it saved my life and it gave me my purpose. And so, yeah, I mean, today I've just taken all the things that I've learned, all the things that I've learned from people like yourself, and all the things I've been able to observe and peel the layers back of who I am and who I am at my core that led me to doing these things as an expression of like my essence, if you will, that showed me what I was passionate about because it started with myself. And then it led to a higher purpose than others, of other people than myself. So the third brain tumor diagnosis, it all clicked. It was 2017 to start off the year. Got the news I got a third diagnosis, and it was that moment where I was like, man, this is bigger than me. And there was no pity party, there's no frustration. It just how do I help people? And that's what led me to doing what I do today, speaking and running my coaching business. And our good friend Isaac Stegman, he summed it up very well for me. He's like, man, you got a story that's off self on purpose.
Yeah.
And he explained that story from his experience to me, and it makes sense. So that's in a nutshell who I am.
I love that message, that off self on purpose type message, because dude, one of the things that I resonated with, man, the minute that I met you, is that you just have a heart and a spirit. Your whole aura is just says, I'm here to be in service to other people. And that's one of the reasons why we connected, because we both, had come from a world that's pretty exclusive, right? I mean, not a lot of people play pro football. Not a lot of people are at the level of a BMX athlete that you were. I mean, touring the world with guys like Dave Mira. I mean, some of the top guys in the sport. And then, in the blink of an eye, basically it was over, right? So we were trying to transition, and we both kind of came to this realization that, we achieved our goals and our dreams that we'd set when we were kids, and that was cool for us. But moving forward, the new goal is not to just pursue success or more money or more fame for ourselves, but to pursue significance. And I always talk about that in the sense of impact. Are other people better because they've come in contact with you? Are people's lives better because you impacted them in some way? And you talked about purpose, which, finding your purpose, which I think is so crucial. What would you, a lot of people, again, they struggle with that concept of finding your purpose. I think you kind of summed it up perfectly when you said, move towards things that you're passionate about, and that can ultimately reveal your purpose to you, right? And I remember hearing you speak, kind of give your full presentation for the first time, and afterwards we were chatting, and you said, what did you think? What did you take away? And I said, dude, my biggest takeaway was that not following your dreams can kill you, right? And that was kind of centered around that idea that while you were practicing, you can tell this story certainly better than I can. While you were practicing, you wrecked and hit your head and had a concussion, which led you to go get a CT scan, which revealed one of the, I don't know whether it was the first and second or the third tumor, but talk about that, man, and how that was kind of that thing that led you to your purpose and what you're doing now.
Yeah, and just to backtrack a little bit, what I discovered was what I aimed to do in life, and what I saw success with was chasing BMX, becoming a professional BMX athlete. To me, that was success. And then while I went through the injuries and the other financial challenges and the brain tumor diagnosis and the loss of friends and family, all these things, I just wanted to optimize my being at my best that stemmed from a fear of death. In doing so, I became the best version of myself, and I continue to do that every day, overcoming my past self. That led me to passions I didn't know I had. But backing up, BMX came from experiencing so many different things. Like, thankfully, my dad, still obsessed with sports, had me playing every sport possible. And I gravitated towards BMX, but it wasn't with trying new things that I found what really set my heart on fire, like what really fueled me. And then as I went through my own challenges, my purpose in life was to become the best version of myself to preserve my life. And then thereafter, as I started seeing success, my purpose that served other people rather than just myself became clear to me. And that's what led me to doing what I'm doing today. So then, the first diagnosis was March 2010. And that was an interesting moment, because it was about a year and a half where I had been going into the emergency room, urgent care, friends driving me in, complaining of debilitating headaches, migraines, nausea and vomiting from the pain, and losing my vision. Like, I was having doubled vision some days. When you rub your eyes in the morning because they're like kind of foggy?
Absolutely.
That was all day, some days. It got to the point where I was purely riding off muscle memory, which is very dangerous in any sport, but also when you're 15 feet off the ground with a 20-pound metal bicycle doing backflips.
Right.
But I loved it, and I wasn't going to be defined by my circumstances. I had this vision, and that's what I was working towards. But it was the end of March. I was trying a new trick into the foam pit, a variation of a trick I had previously learned. Felt really dialed, did 10 in a row. We didn't have like a middle ramp. Like, we had a foam pit and a real ramp. Now we have like padded ramps. That's kind of like a gymnastics pad, but then like a thin piece of plastic on top of it so you can roll away. We didn't have that then. So it was back then, you do it in the foam pit, which we were fortunate enough to have. Then you try on the real ramp
Right.
because you want to go to the contest prepared. You don't want to just try it for the first time.
Yeah.
Well, I went to a real ramp that was a foot shorter than what I was just practicing on the foam pit. So out of fear for under rotating the flip and the spin of the trick, I over rotated, got ejected off my bike, hit my head, got knocked out. And then after a year and a half of asking for an MRI, a CAT scan, X-ray, something to look at my brain because I felt like something was wrong, and I was denied them because of my physical appearance and my age. Blood work didn't show anything. I was denied, sent home with pain pills, told to come back if I needed more. That was, the in and the out. That crash in March saved my life because if I didn't hit my head, I believe I'd be dead today. Mm-hmm. It resulted in an MRI as a necessary means to look for a TBI, look for some sort of swelling, bleeding, something. And that's when they accidentally found a massive brain tumor over the left side of my brain that made sense to all of this suffering I was going through. That I actually, until just now, I've said it in my talks, that I accepted suffering as a part of my reality before I was diagnosed. I've been saying that for 10 years until just recently I uncovered that and I was like, oh, I wonder what would happen if I got rid of that belief that I have to suffer to enjoy my life. And it's been freeing. It's been amazing. But that was the start of it. That was April 16th, 2010, Duke University, had my head cut open, tumor removed, and then I was actually back on my bike in 5 weeks from surgery. It was incredible.
Man, that's such a crazy story to me because again, that is kind of a tangible example, a physical example of that concept of not following your dreams can kill you. And maybe not in your case, it was literal. In a lot of people's cases, not literally, but figuratively. And I think that's what's so great about what you're doing now is you've made the transition and you're continuing to follow now a new dream. I talk about that in the context of just climbing another mountain, climbing a new mountain, building a business, trying to increase your influence and your impact on the world. And I think that's such a huge thing, man, because again, you and I kind of share that heart to say, dude, it's not about us, like it's not, our daily lives are not about how can we fulfill ourselves and how can we, increase our status or our net worth or whatever. And that's what I think is so great about what you're doing. And, again, I want to talk briefly just about the impact that you had on me so that our viewers can, there may be people out there that ultimately after this that would like to work with you. And I would advise anybody who wants to learn better how to optimize their health and their performance to go to joshperrybmx.com. You can find him on Instagram at joshperrybmx, on Facebook at joshperrybmx. If you're looking to optimize your health and your performance in whatever area you're in, whether that's sports or business, we talk a ton about how optimizing your health can, increase your production, your performance in business. You and I've talked about that, and I know that's a part of your presentation. But the short version of this story is that I, after meeting Josh and spending some time with him, I just said to him numerous times about how I wanted to get back down to my NFL playing weight, and I was doing everything that kind of the fitness world would tell you is right. I'm doing cardio 4 or 5 times a week. I'm working out and I'm, getting 4 or 5 meals in to make sure my metabolism is high and, all of these types of different things, taking the supplements and the protein powders and all this. And I remember specifically one time we were in a hotel room and we were just kind of sitting on our beds, on our phones talking. And I said, man, I'm at about 215 right now. I'd like to get down to about 200, maybe right under 198 and get back to my football playing weight and just kind of be lean and in shape. And Josh says, dude, I could do that for you just through your diet. You don't even have to work out. And I was like, yeah, right. I've been spending the last 5 years busting my ass in the gym, working out 5 times a week, cardio 4 times a week, and just keep fluctuating between 210 and 215. And Josh is like, oh man, I could do that for you. No problem. Not even working out. Well, I went home from that. We were in San Diego. I came home and I got on the scale and I was like 216. And I was like, dude, I'm done with it. I'm over it. And I text you, I think. And I was like, hey bro, I'm all in Monday. Let's start. And you just laid out a plan for me and made it really simple. Just, said, do this, don't do this. And man, the changes were immediate. And so I want you to talk a little bit because, there's a lot of fad diets out there that just talk about losing weight and being more healthy. I know, that you've moved away a little bit from, kind of putting yourself in the lane of a ketogenic lifestyle, coach, but that was, ultimately the kind of the diet that I followed that you helped me with. And I think there's so many benefits to that beyond just losing weight and looking good. You and I had a lot of conversations about brain health, about how devastating sugar can be, how terrible that is for your system. Talk a little bit about that, as much or as little as you want to, because dude, what you helped me with was a game changer for me, not only physically in my physical appearance, but mentally and overall health and performance optimization. So just talk about kind of some of the key points of that you think are important for people out there that are thinking about, maybe trying keto or trying to optimize their health. What's important for them?
Yeah. So simply put, I want to go back to two other things that you mentioned that I think are really profound. But first, simply put, the benefits that come from a ketogenic diet or a ketogenic lifestyle or this metabolic state of creating ketones in your blood, which is what it stands for. The benefits comes from regulating your metabolic health and improving your metabolic health. And that all triggers at a cellular level your mitochondria, which most people don't know that that's what's responsible from taking food, calories, and oxygen and creating your natural currency in your body of energy called ATP. So simply put, creating ketones in your blood is the effect of optimizing your metabolic health, optimizing your mitochondria specifically. And all that does is that regulates your brain in such ways that everything else is just a ripple effect by nature. Like you can't have one without the other. You can do miserable hours of cardio all you want. You can do these starvation diets. You can, eat high carb, low fat, and you're going to get some results. But 9 times out of 10, and this is what the science shows, this is what studies show, it's at the cost of muscle mass, which then lowers your metabolic rate even lower and lowers your immune system, lowers your strength and your overall health. And then when you do go back to following whatever way you were eating or even a healthy diet, but it's more than what you were doing, you put all that excess on because your metabolic rate has dropped so much because you've lost so much skeletal muscle mass. So I know that there's so much in there to unpack, but what I want to highlight is we need to understand what health and performance are opposed to what mainstream media and our past conditioning beliefs makes us think it is.
Yes, I want you to go there. Definitely.
So starting with health, there's 2 components. You have the mental and the physical health. Now, something I wanted to back up to and say thank you to you was for sharing your journey, what you're working on, and for me to have a visual representation of someone I want to model and I can take from, and I call virtual mentors, but I have the pleasure of being friends with you in real life. But because for me, it helps reverse engineer what I see as your path to success and apply tools for myself. So what you helped me realize was, and you helped me get out of, was this 2-year gap of an identity crisis of trying to chase what my ego was saying I was based on what I did in my past. And that wasn't serving me. And I couldn't figure out why I was having so much tension with moving forward and resistance to speaking and coaching. And it's a chapter I'm writing in my book that I got from Jackie. The title I got from Jackie was Breaking Up with My First Love. My first real love on an emotional, real emotional basis was BMX. It so much, it formed who I called me or referred to as I. And when I stopped that with this higher purpose that I was passionate about and fueled for, I started questioning who I was. What am I doing? I felt like an imposter. Is this new lane I'm choosing going to actually work? Am I even worthy of this? Do I deserve other people's time and attention and money to help them with what I've done? Like all these things. So you helped me get out of that and recognize where I was and what's possible. And so I want to thank you for that. But that also leads into the health aspect or the mental aspect of health. And if you're not addressing your problems, your issues, your challenges, even your goals from an emotional, mental standpoint and having clarity at a basic understanding of who you are and how you operate, no matter what plan I give someone, no matter what advice or resources I give, it's either not going to work because they're not going to put the work in because their program is so strong to prevent them from changing, or they're going to have little sustainability with that success because they didn't shift who they were internally as their identity.
Yes.
So then that's where we move into the physical aspect, which that's the easy part, but it comes after the mental aspect of health. Now, the other piece is performance. Most people think athletes, construction, something physical, exercise. Performance is how you show up in life. It's
100%.
emotional, it's energetic, it's mental, it's physical, it's spiritual. It's all those things. It's not just one or the other. And so when I started understanding health and performance from the way I see it and from the leaders, thought leaders, and researchers I look up to and learn from, it makes so much sense as to what I was able to do and how I can apply that to helping other people. And then that's where you came in a little ahead of the game because of your your passion for your craft and what you help people with. So I was able to give you a plan because you got to a point emotionally where you're like, no, I'm done. Like
Yep.
this is not a representation. When I look at myself in the mirror, it's not a representation of what I feel inside. So that's two things I love highlighting is what health actually is and what performance actually is. And that's just my perspective. Everyone has their own model and belief of what that is to them. And it's my job and it's your job to get inside of people's minds and help them see what they usually can't see because when we're stressed, our focus narrows. That's just a survival technique. And so, moving into keto, like I love keto. I can nerd out all day on the most absurd science and complicated things that I'm learning and I geek out about.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm moving away from advocating for a ketogenic lifestyle because it scares people because people have their own ideas or they've tried it, but they actually didn't really try it. They just tried what this influencer said to do.
Absolutely.
And I'm all science-based and research-based. I've made friends with the researchers in the field. I reverse engineer my path in BMX with health and nutrition. But I think at the basic level, what most people should be doing from a metabolic standpoint is just eating less garbage food, eating less processed food, which isn't even processed anymore. It's ultra processed. It's a real term now. Less alcohol, more water, more movement, and sometimes less movement. Because some people think I got to do an hour, 2 hours of cardio a day. Oh, I'm not going to lift weights because I'm going to get bulky. If people really understood how hard it is to put on muscle, they would have a whole different perspective of that. Dude, I was one of them.
I've fought that battle with people for so long. People say, well, I don't want to lift the weights because I don't want to get all big and look like a bodybuilder. I'm like, dude, I've been working out for 20 years straight consistently. and I don't look like a bodybuilder, right? It's so hard to put on muscle. But I think one of the breakthroughs, for me mentally was when you told me to stop doing cardio. You said, dude, no cardio at all, because, we're already in some stressful situations just with what we do with business, trying to get businesses off the ground. And you talked about how cardio can increase your cortisol, your stress hormone, and ultimately, and you correct me if I'm wrong, potentially put you in a position where you store more fat because of that elevated cortisol, right? So it can have almost a negative effect on you if you're doing too much like steady state cardio, just 45 minutes a day, 5 days a week on a stair climber, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, cardio, there's so many ins and outs of context behind that, depending on the individual, where they're starting from, how much muscle mass, the fat mass they have, what their goal is, what their lifestyle is like, what their job's like. There's so many things. So to keep it simple, look at stress as mental, emotional, biochemical, and physical. So you can physically stress you out from exercising or the foods you choose to consume or the toxins you consume, whether you realize it or not. Mold is a really big toxin that most people don't understand that they may be exposed to. I'm working with a functional medicine doctor to learn more about that. But then, the mental, the emotional, like the biochemical, just the way you think, obviously this, the way you think will trigger neurotransmitters and then the limbic system, all that stuff to create a physical feeling of stress. But then if you're working out on top of that in a grueling manner, aka the treadmill or running, sorry to the people that love it, there's a way to do it that won't hurt you. But most people think, if I burn more calories, I'm going to lose weight. What they don't understand is that's creating more adrenaline and more cortisol, which taps into muscle mass, tears your muscle mass down to create the sugar it's looking for. At the same time, it stores your fat, or it blocks your fat from getting burned, which is the goal, right? We don't want to burn muscle or bone. We want to burn fat. And so it blocks that. But at the same time, it's creating more of the stressful state. And then you're stressed at work. Then you're stressed with your family. And then you're feeling guilty and ashamed for the way you're representing yourself and your family and business life. And then you're trying to get up at 4 a.m. to go run 2 more miles on the treadmill or stair climber. And then you're afraid of resistance training, which
Yeah.
that's what's going to
Yeah.
increase all the things you're looking for. So again, this is a very simplistic way of looking at it. And I don't want to lose people by going too deep, but it's just, if you're looking at ways to regulate stress, that's the start, is becoming aware of how to regulate stress. Most people don't know the physical aspect of it or the nutritional aspect of it. And that's where I come in. But really, if you can just eliminate, or not eliminate, because you're never going to be able to eliminate stress, and it's very important, but if you can observe it and create less judgment of it and create less self-created stress, you're going to be feeling better. That's going to lead you to being more, let's say, motivated, which you and I have a very unique perspective on motivation.
Absolutely.
Or just influenced or inspired to act accordingly. And then what you don't know, you don't know. So there is times where you're going to need people that are going to be able to train and coach and guide and support you along that way.
Yeah. So I don't want to spend much more time, talking about some of those specifics, because there's, what you're into now, especially over the last couple months, is so much deeper and so much more impactful for that. But I do want impactful than that. But I do want to just let anybody know who's interested in working with Josh on something specific in terms of diet or exercise to lose weight or get in better shape. Again, optimize your health and performance. Go to joshperrybmx.com. He's got an amazing online course. I went through it. It's an 80-some page handbook, right? That really just walks you through kind of everything you're going to want to know. So if you're interested in working with Josh in that respect, go to joshperrybmx.com and send him an email or look at that online course. Dude, over the last couple months, all the things that have been happening in the world have really led you to some conclusions about yourself, about kind of the world in general, and what your place in the world is and what you want it to be. And I've, we've had conversations about that, and I've watched the things you post on social media, your posts and your videos about self-discovery, about becoming more aware of your thoughts and consciously what's going on in your head, so to speak, how you're seeing yourself on a daily basis. How has that changed kind of your outlook on yourself, on your career, on your place in the world, and what you think is important about kind of our awareness of again, who we are and that aspect of self-discovery and how we can, as we talk about here at Be a Pro, work to create the best version of yourself?
Man, I didn't have my notes prepared for that question. That's 6 months of deep note taking and
Yes.
journaling to go into. But
I know.
I guess on a first thing that comes to mind is like, it's just changed me on every which level. With my business, with my family, with my own being, how I judge or lack thereof, how I observe myself now. Just becoming aware of my personality, the way I think, the way I feel, and the way I behave. And so with creating awareness, the next step I find is the most challenging step, and that's accepting who you are and the reality that you've created. It's not blaming people. It's not being at fault for things. It's not putting excuses on. It's none of that. It's just accepting your reality is what you created. You're at cause,
You're at
of the
cause. I was
reality.
just going to say that, right? You are on the cause side of that equation. Exactly.
And for me, that started 4 years ago when I was introduced to Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, just learning about the unconscious mind versus the conscious mind and emotions and thinking and behavior and all these things. And once you get to that consciousness, like once you pull the curtain back, you can't unsee things you see. Mm-hmm. So then therefore you have a decision to make in that moment consciously. Do you want to change what you see, or do you want to accept it and play a victim and then be at effect to your environment and your circumstances? I chose unconsciously many times to not to agree with that, to say, no, I'm going to change, because I had a vision in my mind that I was working towards. I wasn't allowing my circumstances to define me, because if I did, I would have never even left home or dropped out of high school for BMX.
Right.
Granted, I had the support from certain people in my family and my friends, but at the end of the day, I just had this vision. And so that's what I work with people on, is creating awareness, like becoming conscious of who you are. And the fact that we have two different brains, people think we have one. I mean, technically we got three if you talk about the gut and the vagus nerve and all that, but
Yeah.
really we have the brain and the brain in action, which is considered the mind. And in the
Yes.
mind, you have two versions. You have your conscious, logical thinking brain, or your unconscious brain. And there's this communication between the two of them. So if you don't understand who you are at an emotional and mental level, yeah, we can. The brain is designed to understand and identify who we are based on our body in time, and based on our body in space. So it's the outside world, the inside world, but most of us get programmed to be defined by what we see, what we hear, what we feel, all those things. So man, like just understanding who I am, and I'm still learning. I mean, I would be clueless to say I know myself now. Like I know life, I get it. Like, cause no, I'm never going to. But that's the journey, that's the process. And the more I've done that, the more free I've felt. And I know I'm kind of going on a tangent, but this stuff
Oh,
just gets me fired up. And I can't. I wanted to say stress, but I feel like that's a negative word. But I can't highlight enough how important and profound it can be to become aware of just the simplest things you do, say, and think and feel, and just take note of them. And then just make a decision. What do you want to do? It's going to be hard, but that's the ego in action. That's your body being so comfortable where it's been. Even if you want to change, it doesn't know what change is like. But when you have that solid in your mind, it allows, like every time I've been on stage the last 2 years in front of thousands of people, with never doing it before, other than in BMX, but to speak, to have all those eyes on me consciously waiting to hear what I have to say, and me thinking about that, the only reason I was able to push through that fear and insecurity was because of the vision I had in my mind and the purpose I was working towards.
yes.
So I think I think consciousness is everything, and it starts with awareness and then accepting it, and then there's so many things after that, of course.
Yeah. Well, dude, a couple things. First, you talked a little bit about some of our early interactions, and some of the conversations between us, in kind of in your evolving and letting go of your past, and maybe some of the fears or limiting beliefs or doubts you had about yourself. I remember, and this is what I love about when you connect with somebody. I remember when I first met you, and over those first couple of weeks when we were at these events together, I was like, dude, you are amazing, man. Like these, you're the guy. You're an expert in your field. You are top tier, and some of these guys that you look up to as they're the experts, and I'm just down here trying to figure things out. I spoke to you just from the heart, very deliberately, like, bro, you have to own exactly who you are and where you are in this space and what you do. And that is that you are top tier, you're an expert. And I think and to kind of correlate that to one of your quotes that I love, I think you have it tatted, right? Fear
Oh
is
yeah,
just a thought, and
yeah,
thoughts can change. Yeah.
yeah.
And so I mean that's true about fear for sure. Fear is a thought, and thoughts can change. Every other thought that we have about ourselves can change as well. And when we met, you were carrying around some of these thoughts. Like you said, you felt inauthentic. You didn't feel like you were truly walking into the next vision, and that you weren't truly connected to that you were kind of a fraud, that you were just a BMX guy that was trying to be something else. But you changed those thoughts, right? And you now see yourself differently. And to use some of those NLP terms, that perception is projection, or perception is interpretation. However we perceive ourselves and our surroundings is how we're going to experience the world around us, and how our own emotions can change the way that we feel about ourselves and things around us, just based on how we're interpreting things that are happening in our lives, in the lives of others, and in the world in general, right? So talk about kind of the importance of working on changing that inner self, how you see yourself on a subconscious level. And what are some ways that you can think of that you've experienced and that you have used to help on a subconscious level really change that inner image that you had of yourself?
To answer that question, that's easy. That's just taking action. I wasn't taking action the way I thought, or I thought I was taking action, but not in the way I needed to, based on the
Right.
emotional baggage I was still attached to, and the insecurities that I was identifying with. So although I had people like yourself, other people in my world telling me the same thing, I had a story that was attached to my identity and my ego that wasn't allowing me to actually, the information was at a different level than what I was experiencing. So it wasn't connecting, it wasn't making its way through to me. And so when I decided to accept that and to take action and create discipline and consistency with that, the motivation that we all seek magically showed up. The
Hmm.
changes started to show up because my internal environment was shifting. And when your internal environment shifts, your external environment shifts. Like your external environment is based upon what you believe, think, and feel about yourself and
That's
your
it.
reality
That's
that
the
you live in.
interpretation part. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And actually, I got Dr. Matt's other book,
Yeah. Oh,
Integrate the
yes.
Shadow. I'm
Yes.
trying to understand. I'm like 2 or 3 chapters in, and I think I have a basic understanding now of like understanding of what the shadow and shadow work is. But for me, for a minute, it was really confusing. But yeah, just trying to learn more about myself, but accept it. But then also think about it in a conscious light. Like, okay, there's an insecurity I didn't realize. Like, I didn't know that I had so many it makes sense. There's so many attachments to these insecurities that were hidden by BMX. All the success I was seeing in BMX was allowing me to avoid looking at all the shit that got me there. And as I began accepting that, oh, there's things that this is what came from stopping riding, and you helped me really be confident in that. Because, like I said, the whole breaking up my first love, that was a 2 year back and forth argument with myself internally and figuring out, like, why am I unhappy? Why do I feel like there's this gap in my life? People think life's so great and I'm this and that, but like I don't want to ride my bike. Like there's
Right.
something. But then yeah, it was just taking the action to create the change, which led me to hiring someone as a coach to work with me on these things, holding me accountable, doing the work, not only just thinking and understanding all these biological mechanisms, which I've been learning for years, but actually applying what I was learning into practical application. And so the one thing I would say to answer all that is action. And so someone that works with me, we talk about consistent action is going to give you what you want. It comes from doing the work and creating momentum, because every time you catch yourself, you're potentially unwiring neural networks that condition you to believe who you are and to do what you did based on who you believed you were. So when
Yes.
you catch yourself feeling anxious or fearful or sad or happy or euphoric, either way you catch yourself, you can make a conscious decision moving forward of how you want to act. So if you're showing up anxious, okay, what are you thinking that led you to this spot?
Yes.
Okay, well, what do you want? Okay, well, how can you act differently to get you a different outcome? You're not gonna get your dreams and goals overnight, but you're gonna feel closer and closer. That's gonna spark that motivation that people seek, which is just elevated energy. And then you can't get a new result by doing things differently. It doesn't work. And what is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a new result.
Yep.
So if you flip that, like you do things differently, you're gonna get a new outcome.
Let's talk about that motivation thing for a minute, because yeah, we've touched on that, you and I, kind of in private conversations and in different social media posts. There's a great quote that um, the author of the quote escapes me at the moment, but basically it says, "Do the thing and you'll find the power. Do the thing and you'll have the power." Other people have kind of paraphrased it. Do the thing and you'll find the motivation to do the thing, right? And I think that's
Yep.
what you're getting at a little bit, which is that idea that people always want to wait until they feel like they've got the power or they've got the motivation.
You're
Like,
living at effect.
I'm gonna start doing this when I'm motivated. And the key, like you said, is action. You take action, which builds a little bit of momentum, which builds the motivation to keep doing the thing, right? I mean, again, going back to my journey with you, I wasn't motivated to give up soda and M&Ms and pizza and all that stuff that I didn't want to do that, right? But I did it. After a couple days, I'm already getting on the scale and I'm down a couple pounds, right? So look, that's a little momentum. And now I'm like, shit, how much further can I push this? And so now I'm motivated to be even more disciplined. And now I'm even more conscious of the decisions that I'm making. I'm less stressed about the things I felt like I was giving up or sacrificing, because now I'm focusing on a new goal. I'm forming new habits. I'm aware of those thoughts that at times past when I tried to diet and give up some of these things. And then I would fall back into these same patterns. I'm more aware of those things now, right? So to your point, action, do the thing, and you'll find the power or the motivation to do the thing.
Yeah, you were doing it. You each time you did something new, you overcame your past self, and that's my alarm clock. On an iPhone, you can change the name. You know, like mine says "overcome yourself."
I love it, man.
Because that's like to change is to overcome yourself.
Yes.
Like you're breaking down those neural networks and you're creating new ones. But it takes time. But each time you catch yourself and you observe it and you make a conscious decision, a new action, you rewire part of your brain. You change chemically, neurochemically, biologically, on a cellular level.
Yep.
So that was something, and the author James Clear, he talks a lot about that. Is like so many of us focus on outcome based results. We're so focused on the goal that maybe we do some of the process, some of the systems that are needed to get that result. Maybe some of us get the exact result and then we lose it. Maybe some of us never do. The most common reason why that's a thing, why we can have two different people that have the same goal and one reaches it even though they're both capable 100%,
Yep.
one reaches and one doesn't, is because they believe a different thing about themselves. The identity shift is what leads to that, but you have to take action. And there's like that challenge, what comes first, the motivation or the action, the chicken or the egg. And it's like, I mean, if you wait so you feel something that comes from a new thought process or a new action, but you're not doing that
That's right.
process, what you're never going to do it. And that's a lot of I find the challenge is a lot of the fear, the fear of change that we don't understand is happening. That's just the body's survival technique. Even though you could be like, hey, I'll give you $1,000,000 if you jump across this stream that I know you're capable of, but you never done it. Your brain's gonna stop you and think, oh, you're gonna make it? How far is that? And like that's just a vague, basic
Yeah.
example, but
But you think about how many people did something, finally got up the courage to do something that at one point they were very fearful of, that was way outside their comfort zone, something that they would say, "Gosh, I don't think I could ever do X," and then they do it the first time, and your mind automatically says, "Well, that wasn't so bad," and now you do it again and again and again. So many people in our business, in the speaking business, will say, "Man, I used to be terrified to get up on stage," and then you do it, and you're like, "That wasn't too bad." I'm terrified of speaking in front of people. You do it, and it's not too bad. And again, you're doing the thing and building momentum, and then you've got the motivation to work to get better and get more competent at those things by changing those patterns, changing those thought processes, being aware of those patterns and kind of your past self, and choosing different outcomes, choosing different behaviors, different habits. I love that you referenced James Clear. Atomic Habits is such an amazing book because he does talk a lot about, I'm a very goal oriented person. And you and I have talked about this too. I think for me, everybody should have a huge, big, limitless type goal, something that when you think about it, you're like, man, I don't even know if that's possible, but it's something that you want. If it's something you're passionate about, something that you want. But the part of that a lot of people miss is what James Clear talks about so well, which is the process, right? Like you said, people get so outcome oriented that they don't look at the process. And it kind of goes back to one of those old sayings, like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you, change your perception of yourself? One thought at a time. And if we can encourage people to do anything, from this live stream, from this discussion, it is to chunk things down like that to a level where what's one small action that you can take today that can get you closer to whatever the goal is or whatever you feel like your ultimate purpose is. And I think that's what one of the things that's so important about what you're doing right now, because I see you consistently driving that theme home in any video that you post, in your social media posts, is take action, do something, one small thing to move you closer to what it is that you want or who you want to be.
yeah, I mean that's everything. It's not thinking about it's so Goals are great. Like you and I both love goals. They set the target. They set the sights on where we want to go. They're important because you need to know, like a map. You need to have an idea of where you are
Yes.
and where you want to go. But once you establish that, you have to detach yourself from that outcome. You have to just let it be. You already, in your unconscious mind, you know what you're working towards. It could be, 10 grand a month. It could be 20 pounds at the end of the 6 months, whatever it is. But then focus on becoming someone that does, thinks, feels,
Yes.
believes, and has that life. Because
Yes.
if you're just sitting there thinking, why don't I have, 100 grand a month in my bank? Well, that's not how someone that has 100 grand in their bank shows up, or 10 grand a month,
That's
whatever it
right.
was earlier, and then if you take those actions, every time you take an action that's based on the identity of who you want to become, those personality traits that are going to lead to that result, you rewire yourself. You create a new version of yourself. But every time you catch yourself and you make a conscious or unconscious decision to do what you did in the past that gave you the result that you don't want, you reaffirm the identity that you had that's limiting you where you want to go.
Take dude, huge point. Taking an action that is congruent or consistent with the person that you want to become is how you become that person, right? It's really that simple. And we're talking, grand scale and really small things. People say all the time, man, I'm just not a morning person. Well, if you took consistent action to get up at 5 in the morning, you technically would be a
Stop
morning
telling
person.
yourself you're not a morning person.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the first thing, right? Stop telling yourself that. That's a limiting belief, first of all. But I talk so much about this, and I heard Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn and multiple other influencers and speakers and thought leaders talk about the idea of goal setting. And you said it so perfectly that you detach yourself from that outcome because it's not about what you get. It's not about achieving the goal. It's about who you become in the process. And that's where the real growth happens. And I think this is one of the things I talk about in the book, in the Be a Pro book, is that in order to achieve something new or to change something in your life, as Jim Rohn always used to say, if you want things to change, you have to change. If you want things to get better, you have to get better. And so I talk at length in the book about not only what you have to do to change your life or to get a goal or to get a new outcome, but who you have to become. And that is one of the consistent traits of high performers is constantly thinking about what type of a person, who do I need to be in order to achieve these outcomes? I think that's such a huge point, and you made it so well.
Yeah, I agree, man. And there's two books that come to mind: a short book, like a really short book, and then a normal book, whatever you want to call it. But the Seven Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra, I believe it's the fifth or sixth law is or it might be the final one. It's the law of detachment,
Mm-hmm.
and detaching yourself from controlling an outcome. You can't control shit besides the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you behave. So people that are trying to control everything, just let go. You're going to feel better. I just went through that the last few months. But then also the book, The Power of I Am and the Law of Attraction. I forget the author's name, but he talks about how he's been a millionaire 5, 6 times over. But every time he acquired the wealth he was going after, he had this fear of losing it. His
Mm-hmm.
focus was on losing it. And it wasn't until the fifth or sixth time where he focused on obtaining it or maintaining it and
Maintaining.
sustaining it, because he changed a part of himself that believed that he deserved to have it and that he could do more with it. And so just a simple shift in what his focus was led him to creating a new identity that maintained the success that he had. So when you can detach yourself from an outcome, but keep it, in your unconscious mind, keep it on your wall if you want. But if you focus on becoming the person that has the life that you want and the things in that life, the personality that you're going after, whatever it is, you're going to have a higher probability of achieving and sustaining that life.
I was just going to say that's the key, man, is sustaining it because if you focus on becoming that person, then once you achieve that goal, it's easy to operate in it because you've done the consistent work, you've made the changes, you've made the shifts, both internally and externally, that allow you to sustain that and to operate in it and to really live in that, whatever you want to call it, in that dream, in that goal, and really live in that purpose. Dude, I think that's a great spot to end here, man. it was so amazing to have you on. I know I've said it a couple times, mentioning your website. Where's the best place for people to find you? People that might just want to check out more of what you're doing, or work with you one-on-one.
Yeah, and actually, I want to say one thing on the last topic we just had. I'm incredibly grateful for how challenging my life has been to get the things I want, because it challenged me to become the person that acquired and could maintain the level of success that I wanted and I continue to want and to progress with and learn. Because if I had gotten all the things, if BMX had came to me without ever falling, I wouldn't have known what to do if I fell.
Right.
So something as simple as that, it was just, I'm grateful for those challenging moments. And I think if people could have perspective on, you've been through everything, you've been through all the most difficult parts of your life to this moment. That's a fact.
Yes.
You've overcome everything. So if you can be grateful for overcoming it, to be alive, and to have the perspective of, what did you learn? What did you take away from those experiences, those events, those challenges? Then you can consciously apply it moving forward. So that's just something that I wanted to share on that note.
It's also, you and I have chatted about this and said this to each other, the idea, the shift in mindset that life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you, right?
Jim Carrey, my favorite, said that. Yeah.
All the negative things, or the job we didn't get, or the relationship that failed, or that ended, or this thing that didn't go our way. Life is not happening, or in this case, bad things aren't happening to you. They're happening for you, so you can learn and grow and ultimately become who you need to become in order to make that impact and operate in the purpose and in the dreams that you have. Go ahead.
And at the end of the day, people are going to challenge that. They're going to hate on it. And it's like, we don't know either way. We don't know either way. I mean, some people have their beliefs, but like, if you had a choice, what would you choose? Glass half full or glass half empty?
That's it.
You're going to get a reality either way. One you're going to desire and you're going to enjoy, and one you're going to not so much, and you're going to suffer through life. But until you decide to make a shift in perspective, things are always going to be happening to you. You're never going to know why.
Yep.
But yeah. And to your question, yeah, I mean, I'm most active on Instagram, Facebook as well, I guess. But if people want to have a conversation, send me a DM on Instagram, or the contact part of my website, and I'll get back to you. Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Josh Perry BMX across all platforms. Website is joshperrybmx.com. Josh, last question I ask every guest on the show this. I hate to put you on the spot a little bit, but I'm going to anyway. As you know, you're on the Be a Pro live series. What does it mean to you to be a pro?
I think to be a pro is just to walk your talk, to live your truth. I think it's simple. Just live your truth.
I love it, man. Short and sweet and so powerful. Dude, I love you, man. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate everything that you've done for me, and more so what you've done for so many people across the country, across the world. And I want to thank you in advance for the impact that you will continue to have, because the trajectory for you is only going up. I can't wait for the book to come out. Can't wait to see more from you on social media. And I can't wait till you and I can get back out on the speaking circuit again, man, and have some good times, out on the road. So let's keep our fingers crossed that we can do that soon. But brother, appreciate you so much, man. And for all of you out there watching, if you're watching a replay, still drop some of those questions. If you have any questions for Josh or myself, drop them in the chat, and we will go back through and answer those. And I just appreciate all the viewers so much. I hope you guys got a ton of value and got just ton of nuggets out of Josh, the way I do every time we talk. I walk away, feeling like I've learned some new things. So thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate you. We will see you next week. But until then, I will challenge you, as always, to go out and be a pro. Thanks so much.